watch me draw a portrait with alcohol markers while answering your questions. Hi everyone, my name is Ania. I'm an artist from Poland but living in Spain. Most of the time, I draw in my sketchbook and I love using mixed media. In my art, I mainly focus on portraits and animals, but honestly, I enjoy experimenting with all kinds of subjects. This is actually my very first YouTube video, so I was thinking a lot about what might be interesting for you. In the end, I decided to start with a portrait because so many of you have been asking me about my process. And since I was recently invited to collaborate with Copic Europe, I will be using one of their portrait marker sets for this drawing. While I draw, I will be answering the questions you asked me on Instagram. And wow! You guys really surprised me with how thoughtful and original your questions were. Thank you so much for sending them. Alright, let's jump into the very first one. What inspires you the most? Honestly, there isn't just one thing. I feel like almost anything can spark inspiration. A movie character, a plant I see on a walk, or even a random photo that makes me stop scrolling. For me, inspiration is really tied to that inner feeling of simply wanting to capture something I find beautiful. Another huge source of inspiration is other artists. There are so many amazing people sharing their work online, and I think it's just beautiful when artists inspire one another. Honestly, it's like the biggest compliment when someone tells me my art inspired them. And of course, let's not forget Pinterest. It's like an endless treasure chest of inspiration. I have boards there that I constantly update and they are public if you want to check them out. Sometimes I go in with a clear idea of what I want to draw, and other times I just scroll through my saved pins until something clicks. Okay, speaking of inspiration, who are some of your biggest inspirations? Oof, this one is pretty hard because there are just so many incredible artists that I love. But okay, let me try. I think at the moment I would say Gretel Luski, Gabriela Nico, Ala Uchmanowicz, Melisende Vector, Kindi, Lorkel, and Winter Alar. Their work really resonates with me and always gives me that creative boost. It's amazing to see them grow as artists, and their journey really keeps me motivated. Now, on to a more personal question. Was there a turning point when you decided to take your art seriously? Well, yes, actually, there was. To put it shortly, depression. To explain a bit more, before I returned to drawing earlier this year, I was running a completely different business, a vegan restaurant. Yes, I'm vegan, by the way. So I've always loved creating. And as a teenager, I was passionate about both art and cooking. I didn't see a future in either of those back then, so I went into fashion and worked as a stylist and fashion editor. But eventually, I burned out and decided to give cooking a try after all, which led me to becoming a chef and later opening my own restaurant. The food I created was always very colorful and creative, but the business side of things was overwhelming. I burned out again, fell into depression, and had to step away. After a while, I started to miss the feeling of creating, and I thought, why not give drawing another chance? Instead of searching for jobs where I can be creative, why not dedicate myself to art, which is creativity in its purest form, you know? So in January, I picked up my sketchbook again, at first even coloring books. as a way to transition, and by February, I started sharing my drawings on Instagram. Honestly, choosing to pursue art has been the best decision I've ever made. The next question is: have you ever received formal training for your art? Nope. I'm completely self-taught. Maybe it's my ADHD, but I've never liked school or structured courses. I always preferred learning what interested me in the moment. So, years ago, I actually tried taking art classes, but I lasted maybe a month. I felt bored and even discouraged, and sadly, I ended up quitting art altogether for around 13 years. Looking back, I wish I had just trusted myself to learn in my own way. Fast forward to this year, I gave classes another shot, but once again I felt restricted, so I quit, and that confirmed for me that I really am better off as a self-taught artist. And you know what? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Here's another great question. How do you manage between wanting to learn better and trying to create what you like? That's something I worried about a lot when I first started drawing again. I was scared I would get discouraged like before, because I was convinced I should learn the basics first. But then I discovered an artist, Cash, who said something that completely changed my perspective. He said, just draw, make mistakes, have fun with it, and learn along the way. It was just that simple. And that was exactly what I needed to hear. So my approach now is simple. I always draw what excites me. I don't fear mistakes. And if something doesn't turn out great, that's fine. I just treat it as part of the learning process. What really matters, I think, is the joy I feel while creating and the progress I see with each new piece of art I make. Now for a fun one. If you could have dinner with any artist, dead or alive, who would it be? Tim Burton. Without a doubt, actually. He's not only an incredible director, but also a brilliant artist. I adore his style. Dark, a bit weird, full of hidden meanings and witty humor. I even have tattoos of his characters, and I'm sure I will be getting more in the future. I think dinner with him would be fascinating. I would love to hear about his creative process, but also about what his normal day looks like. Next up, what's the easiest step for you in drawing? I think adding the details actually, so like the final detailing stage, let's say. It's the most exciting part for me. When you've done the sketch, laid down the colors, and now it's all about adding those finishing touches. Funny enough, it's also usually the most time-consuming step. But I don't know, I just really love it. Alright, moving on. What's one thing you want to draw but are afraid of? I don't think I have one specific thing, to be honest. Of course, I'm intimidated by hands, feet, or anatomy in general, like most artists are, but it doesn't mean I avoid it. If I want to draw something, I will give it a try, even if I'm scared. Okay, this next one made me laugh. What's your shoe size? I actually debated whether to even include this, but hey, if someone was curious, I won't keep them in suspense. It's 38. Okay, back to a more serious note. What's been your biggest challenge as an artist so far? I think the hardest part has been learning to accept that numbers on social media don't define me or my art. I'll be honest, There were so many times I felt discouraged when a drawing got fewer likes than I expected. I would start thinking maybe my art isn't good enough, maybe I should be further along by now, maybe I should have more followers, and that really crushed me at times. But I realized that's a dead end. Because at the end of the day, when I close social media, it's just me and my art, and my opinion is what matters most. I need to feel joy in what I create. It wasn't easy to learn that lesson, not gonna lie. And even now, I sometimes catch myself focusing too much on numbers. But I am much quicker now to remind myself the only thing that really matters is creating from my heart, being true to myself. And I feel that's the only way I can really be authentic. Another question I got was, how do you decide on your art projects? Well, it really depends. Sometimes I just sit with my sketchbook and draw whatever I feel like. Other times I'm working on my patron rewards, so the theme is already chosen by my patrons. I might also do a fan art, join an art challenge like Mermaid, or collaborate with someone like now with Copic Europe, where I get to test their portrait sets. But one thing I always ask myself, it's actually a tip I learned from my Instagram friend Steffi, hi Steffi, is, will this help me grow? If the answer is yes, I go for it. If not, I let it go. And yes, I've even turned down collaborations because I didn't feel like they would help me grow as an artist. Here's a super interesting one. When you draw a portrait from imagination or Pinterest, do you imagine a whole story behind the character? So far, I've only done one portrait fully from imagination. And yes, I did imagine who that person might be, but usually when I draw from Pinterest references, I don't invent a full backstory. Instead, I focus on the emotions I see, whether the person looks mysterious, happy, or sad, and just try to capture that feeling. That said, I do plan to create my own OC someday, my own original character. And for that, I would definitely give them a full story, a name, background, hobbies, all of it. I honestly find it so fascinating how other artists build their OCs. It really shows their style and even their personality as artists. So yes, expect at least one original character from me in the future. Alright, here's another thoughtful one. Which of your artworks do you feel most connected to and why? That's a tough one because I feel attached to all of my drawings. But I think, portraits connect with me the most. Animals also have emotions, of course, but I feel like a human face can say so much more. Portraits just push me out of my comfort zone, and they are both my favorite and most challenging subject. I think that challenge makes each one especially meaningful to me. Moving on to the next question. What themes or messages are you most drawn to in your art? It changes depending on where I am in life, but right now I would say dreamy, whimsical, and magical vibes. My messages are usually positive, motivational, funny, or just really relatable. I love experimenting with different techniques and moods. And of course, colors. Bold, bright colors are my signature. But for me, Anya in colors is also about variety. My art doesn't fit into just one box. It's colorful in every sense, just like my personality. And finally, have you ever faced art block and how did you push through it? To be honest, not yet. Maybe it's because I only returned to art at the beginning of this year and I usually have plenty of ideas. But if it ever happens, I think I would start by simply resting, taking a break, enjoying other things I love, and then coming back. If that didn't work, I would try baby steps, drawing 15 to 30 minutes a day, literally anything, without overthinking it. Hopefully, that would help bringing back that creativity. It's such an interesting topic, though, and I would love to hear how you deal with art blocks. So, if you feel like it, please share in the comments. And that's all the questions. Thank you so much again for sending them in. They were so interesting and I really loved answering them. Here's the finished portrait. And I have to say, I'm really happy with how it turned out, especially with this Copic set. The colors are just stunning, and the markers were such a dream to work with. Big thanks again to Copic for letting me be their partner. And of course, thank you for staying with me until the end of my very first YouTube video. It would mean the world if you left a comment, subscribed, shared, or hit that like button. Your support truly helps me keep creating. Thank you and see you in the next one. Bye!